Hey everyone, my name is John, senior software engineer with over 10 years of experience helping you land your first or next programming role. And in today's video, we are going to do some cutting edge bootcamp research. This unbecoming Reddit article is surprisingly research rich. And I'm going to augment this with my own papers, and I'm going to show you that we're really starting to enter a new era of bootcamps. We're going to discuss bootcamp resilience or robust bootcamps, and why you might or might not want to choose to enroll in a robust bootcamp and what that means. Before we dive in, here's latterly.io. This is a social and educational platform that I maintain, totally open source. I'm the lead maintainer, obviously not the only contributor, but sort of the lead one. And you can sign up for free. You can join the Discord. Highly encourage you to do so. If you're viewing this later, this is a live stream. It'll be recorded and propagated to YouTube, but you may be viewing this later. You may have questions. Come over to the Discord and we'll be happy to answer. You can also submit a pull request, and there's some other cool features like 24/7 AI chatbot support, and you can unlock more features starting at $1 a month, like this free expert session on the premium. Oh, the advanced checklist for $1 a month. That's a good one. So there's additional tips that will help you land your job here. Very evidence-based. Things like using LinkedIn premium messages. Okay, so let's read this article straight up, and then we'll go to the related research. So the article says Rhythm School is shutting down. So Rhythm School is a boot camp, and shout out to Michael Novati. Thanks so much for putting this together, where the origin is Rhythm School, but they go on to discuss many other boot camps: Bloom Tech, Codesmith, Epicodus. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Some of these are relatively mainstream. Some of these are more obscure. And that's exactly why it relates to my research. So my research is on hireability and educational prestige, where I define the rule for a prestigious bootcamp. And I show, using signaling theory of education, that prestigious bootcamps will get you a job faster and a better job with more pay, better benefits. So it'll get you lower risk, higher pay. Basically, you want to enroll in a high prestige bootcamp. And circling back to latterly.io, in the standard free curriculum, we talk about a substantive web development program. And if you click into what that means, one option is a prestigious coding bootcamp. Another, of course, the college degree, and there are some other options. But the big two options for what do we mean by a substantive program? If you're going to land a coding job, before you land that job, before you start doing hiring and applying and worrying about your resume, before you do any of that, you want to actually learn to code. So the actually learning to code is the purpose of this substantive program step in the checklist, and why it's early on. You want to learn to code and then land the role. And college degree, prestigious coding bootcamp are two of the pillar options. You can do both if you want to. You arguably don't need to. Pillar options. And now we're considering, in this new era of bootcamp, a new thing, which is the robust bootcamp. What does that mean? The robust bootcamp is the one that hasn't shut down. So if we look through these boot camps, we notice that some of them are shutting down. And we can think about survival of the fittest. So we can think about the quality of boot camp, and there will be a curve, right? So you will have some pressure in the economy. So let's say this is the elevated level of pressure up here. This is the hard market pressure, let's say. And then we can have maybe a blue line, which is like the low market pressure. And this is a survival of the fittest model. You can basically see that some boot camps will have to close down because they won't be able to support the hard market pressure up here. Now you might think, oh, these are just the prestigious boot camps, right? They already have market share, they're well known. Well, the answer is no. These are actually slightly independent qualities. And this is interesting from a theoretical perspective, that a boot camp might be non-prestigious yet robust. Well, they're doing something interesting in their process. How are they doing that? And that's what we're digging into in this video. You can have a non-robust prestigious boot camp or a prestigious boot camp that is also robust. You can picture a 2x2. A 2x2, right? Where you can have both, neither, or either property. And that's what we're evaluating in this video. So let's go through the list. What we expect is a correlation, however. We do expect that prestigious boot camps will survive more often. So we're expecting a correlation. but we're also expecting some independence, So we're going to go through this list, and it's going to, one, check the prestige rule. So this is going to be an independent validation of the prestige rule on the one hand. And second, we are going to try and identify a different robustness rule so that we can actually have two heuristics when we're selecting a bootcamp. And that's the major achievement of the current video, is I will give you a tool. Hopefully, we'll look through the data, and I'll be able to give you a tool which says, hey, when you're looking for a bootcamp, now you have two rules. You have more tests to ensure the quality. That's the goal. Thank you so much for being here. If the video is interesting to you so far, tap like, follow the page, share it with a friend. Thanks again. Okay, let's dive in. So first of all, what's Rhythm School? I had not heard of this school before. Course Report is the data source for the prestige rule. If you go here, higher ability and educational prestige, if you look up the rule, it works like this. You go to coursereport.com, that's the data source. You look at all schools. Do not sort by best reviewed, because if you sort by best reviewed, you'll end up with 5 stars and hardly any reviews. That's not useful signal of employer awareness. Employer awareness is what's going to get you the job. Okay? When we think about the signaling model of education and the human capital model of education, human capital model says it doesn't matter if people know about the school. It matters if they give you awesome skills, and then you're magically going to get a job from those skills, right? Well, no, that's not true. The truth is we need a signal. It's actually less important whether you know how to code, and it's more important for the purpose of landing an interview anyway. Passing the interview is a different story, but landing the interview, the recruiter is reviewing your resume, hiring manager is recruiting your resume. The signal is important. Do they think that you are going to be a good candidate when they look at your resume? Okay, so that's the signal of the credential. They went to this or that coding bootcamp. It shows up on my resume. Now I'll give them an interview. Do you see how the process works? It's kind of a process model. You can think about it like a marketing funnel, really. If you view getting a job as selling yourself, then you can actually construct a pretty good marketing funnel, and it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you don't want to go with these 100 reviews. That's not, like, most employers don't know about IO Academy. So you go for most reviewed. And so these are the ones that employers know about. And then you need a second stage filter, because I don't want the employer to know about my coding bootcamp if my coding bootcamp is bad. Then they're aware of a negative signal. So that's why it's a two-stage rule. So you get highly reviewed and 4.25 or higher. So it's the employer knows that it's a good bootcamp that you went to. And now we have a complete positive signal. And again, the paper shows that causes better employment and better labor outcomes for you. So Springboard is going to be a really good one in the US. Lewagen is a really good international one. Last time I checked, they don't have US campus. Maybe that's changed. New Camp is really, really cool, but they're kind of different from a traditional boot camp, but they're still really interesting model over there. Career Foundry is also really great. They previously had a job placement guarantee. Yeah. So beyond the high prestige rule, which is my starting point when I advise people, the job guarantee, a few boot camps have these. It's a really, really green flag. Okay. So Career Foundry, Springboard are going to be two strong examples, at least in the US, and then New Camp and Lewagen. These are places that I'm expecting should not shut down. Okay. We're going to expect a correlation with higher performance. Now let's go look into the research. So let's go ahead and look at those first, and we'll circle back to Rhythm School. So Springboard, layoffs reported. Okay, they didn't shut down, but they had layoffs. Lewagen, paused enrollment. Okay, looking for more details, so we don't know if they had layoffs. Foundry, layoffs reported. So even the strong ones so far, even the best schools from a prestige point of view, have had layoffs. But they're not shutting down. And these two, anyway, are not pausing enrollment. So maybe pausing enrollment, open-ended question, is that an equivalent, better, or worse signal than layoffs? These schools have no reported layoffs or pauses. So the interesting thing is these schools, we're going to find out, include non-prestigious schools that are somehow even more robust to the downturn in the economy compared to these more prestigious ones. That's the interesting difference here. New Camp is among them. Kudos to New Camp. So in New Camp, we have a case where it's both prestigious and robust. And it's a really interesting data point because we know that New Camp, if you look into the school, does not operate like a traditional boot camp. I encourage you to look into their curriculum. It's just very different. It's just very different. Okay, and then we have these other cases where code up, shut down abruptly. Epicodus shut down. So these are actual shutdowns. So we have a few different signals: layoffs, pauses, and shutdowns. We'll look at the layoff, pause, shutdown, or none of the above. We'll basically look for these 4 signals, and we'll try to correlate to prestige. So now let's circle back to rhythm school. It's shutting down, but is it prestigious? And so my correlate on high prestige would say probably not. I don't expect the high prestige ones to shut down. They may have layoffs, but I don't expect them to shut down. And it turns out, indeed, it's not prestigious. We notice something interesting here. 4.99 rating is a really, really high rating. But the reviews are 85, and the prestige rule, you need 400 or more. So it fails the prestige rule. Why does it fail the prestige rule? Lack of brand awareness, not necessarily lack of quality. Indeed, this is if that 4.9, now what you often see, to be fair, is as those reviews go up, the rating will attenuate. So if this review count went up to 400, I wouldn't be surprised if this number drops to, who knows, 4.8, 4.7, 4.6 or lower. But there's a chance it remains high around 4.9. And if this scaled to 400, 500, 600 reviews at a 4.9, it would be a bar raiser for quality. It wouldn't just meet the rule. It would, compared to the 4.25, it would be notably higher. So there's the possibility, and we can take this back to a theoretical model and notice that startups and newcomers and new entrants to the market are often more innovative than the incumbent. So now I'm going to read you a bit of text. And basically the issue here is when you have a downturn in the economy, it's going to be survival of the fittest, but that can be anti-innovation in some ways. That can be anti-innovation in some ways because some of the newcomers are going to get killed and their new processes may not be incorporated to the market. So the fact that these guys are shutting down, rocket science, it's not necessarily good. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just a particular behavior of the market, which has some good qualities and some bad qualities. I think that's what I'm trying to highlight. Let me read you this quick rundown. Prestige and resilience or robustness. And here I'm using these two terms somewhat synonymously. So this is going to be one quality, and this is going to be a distinct quality. And they correlate, but they're different. Prestige and resilience or robustness are different bootcamp qualities, but both can contribute to long-term employer brand recognition. The reason is, this is quite intuitive, if your company has been around longer, more people know about it, regardless of how high quality or low quality the education is. So regardless of how well it actually teaches people to code, the separate question of, does the hiring manager know the name of that education provider? The odds will increase over time towards yes, as that education provider survives. So this is the robustness or resilience causal feature of the coding bootcamp. So both can contribute to long-term employer brand recognition, which improves the hiring signal. So remember, the signaling model of education, the employer needs to know who is that education provider before they even care. So to even evaluate whether this is a positive or negative signal, they just need to be aware of it, right? And indeed, that is the standard hiring bar, is that the employer does have a positive signal. So in absence of signal, if the employer doesn't know, it's not like, oh, they don't know, so it's an even chance of being hired. No, it's actually a penalty. If they don't know your education provider, there is a default penalty. So the standard bar when it comes to software engineering is arguably still the college degree. You don't have to have a degree, but it's arguably still the sort of like central approach or standard bar. You need a degree or a degree equivalent, whether that's experience or portfolio or a high quality boot camp or some other signal that convinces the hiring manager that it's okay that you don't have a degree. You still need something that meets that abstract bar. And having a boot camp that no one's heard of does not meet that bar. It does not meet that bar. Okay, so the average boot camp, a random boot camp, the medium boot camp, these are all poor options. and I've covered this many, many times, but just to reiterate, my position is a high prestige quality boot camp is a great investment. The average or random or median or middle market boot camp, much less the lower market ones, are not a good investment. And now we see another reason why, because there's just not going to be brand recognition if they shut down. Okay, so this is all to be balanced with the trade-off that older companies may be less innovative. So you might say, hey, everything you've just said makes sense, but we're in technology, aren't we? We want the exciting new thing. So we should be supporting and embracing the newcomers. In a way, I agree with you, but we need to view this from different positions. If you're taking the role of a job seeker, and most people who go to college, over 90% of students, their reason for going to college is to land a job. Same with boot camps. If you're enrolling as a student, you're going to think about this problem in a different way than if you're approaching it as an entrepreneur or a business investor or a potential employee, and so on. If you're particularly coming to the problem as a job seeker, then no, you don't need the most innovative pedagogy. You don't need the most innovative business processes. You don't even need to learn the newest technology in the curriculum. What you want is reliable job placement. So whether it's good or bad on the market, we've already covered. It's not strictly good or bad. Downturn in the economy, upturn in the economy, there are pros and cons for different reasons to different people. But if we're addressing this problem specifically as a student, you should bite the bullet and go towards a robust boot camp over the innovative, latest, coolest, shiny boot camp. That's not going to be good as a student, saying it for the 5th time or so, because of the problem of employer name recognition on that education provider. And you should just bite the bullet on the fact that, yes, I'm going to a robust sort of like incumbent boot camp, and maybe the curriculum is slightly dated, and you should bite the bullet on that. So that's going to be my practical advice there. Okay. So far we have validated the prestige rule correlates to surviving. Like none of these high prestige ones shut down. They have had negative impacts, but the negative impacts were relatively weak, just layoffs. I mean, even Meta and Google have had layoffs. Pretty much everyone's had layoffs. But they haven't shut down and they haven't paused enrollment, okay? And they're still having a good signal to the hiring managers relative to the rest of the market. So we have validated the prestige rule in that sense, and we've come up with a distinct thing, and we've noted one case, New Camp, this distinct thing, robustness or resilience, and New Camp, interestingly, has both. Well, let's look at the rest of these. Let's see if we can come up with a robust boot camp rule, which is going to be defined by the pool of these schools. So now I'll go through them one at a time. Oh, and we've also found that, reiterating the point that you cannot look at this rating alone. You cannot look at this rating alone as a good robustness indicator. You can have a 4.99 and still shut down. So there's going to be some sort of inertia. And if you think about the business economics, it makes total sense. Once you have a certain size, then you can absorb negative market conditions to some extent, because your efficiencies, your margin, your economics are already good. And so really there is a certain scale of boot camp, which is going to survive better in a down market. And this just aligns with the idea that incumbents are going to survive better. Okay, Launch School. So Launch School is 4.84 and 92 reviews. Isn't this peculiar? Because we just looked at 4.99 and 85 reviews. Could it be that 7 reviews makes that much of a difference? It could be, or there could be other things going on. And I would probably say there are other things going on. Looking at 2 signals is kind of reductionistic, isn't it? But it's really hard to get the full basis of what's going on. You could do things like, what curriculum do they teach? So here I see Ruby and JavaScript. 8 to 16 months is actually notable. If you look into my research on boot camps, employers do appreciate a slightly longer curriculum, something that's 6 to 12 months. And then I'm forgetting about the 4 to 6 range, but under 4 months is kind of a red flag to an employer. They're like, is that a real boot camp? It seems too fast. And then I don't know what theirs is, but you could, full-time and last 4 months. So you see, this could be part of the could be part of the issue. But there are many other ways that you could break these things down. Full stack web development, so they're going to have JavaScript. I don't know if they have Ruby or not. There's many other ways that you could break this down, and I don't want to go into all that in this stream. So I'm going to be sticking with the two signals, admitting they're reductionistic. It's still interesting that now certainly we don't expect a drop in the rating to cause survival. So I think we can rule out that the delta here is the important difference. Plausibly, a 10% increase in recognition does make a difference, at least plausibly. Now we're going to Coding Temple. And so we're sort of like checking these data points as an analyst as we go along, and we're sort of checking them for plausibility. Here we have a 4.8, so still markedly higher than the prestige rule, 4.25. So both of these have been over 4.8. Both of these survivors. Here's a 4.8. What was the other? I think it was let me just double check. So we're over 4.8, 4.84, right? So in both cases, we're over 4.8. In both cases, we're over 90 reviews. That's what we're noting so far. 4.8 plus rating. Oh, let me change that font. 90 plus reviews. And then there will just be something about like school age is what we mean by robustness. And or has this school survived a market cycle? Okay, so these are a couple other signals that have to do with robustness or resilience, and they don't have to do with prestige, right? 379 reviews. Now, the prestige rule is 400 plus reviews. So again, we see that you can be robust without being prestigious, but it's a useful note. It's still passing this 90 plus test. Let's take a look at Code Fellows. 4.47, okay, a bit of an outlier. 4.47, still higher than 4.25. And probably we want to prune the outliers, right? So that if we have a reliable rule, if we think about statistics, so the prestige rule is created from statistics. So there's going to be a hard rule, and then there's going to be like a statistical rule, and the statistics would underweight the outliers. So let's make a note of the outliers. So far, the 90 reviews has been an outlier, and we are otherwise over 200. 200 plus, 200 plus, and then 90 plus is an outlier. Okay, so let's expand this bit, and I will have the, we'll say the hard and the soft rule. Hard, resilience rule. It includes outliers. Soft, resilience rule excludes outliers. I don't know if I like those words hard and soft. Maybe weak and strong is better. Weak, or like, let's just say, call it what it is. Resilience rule with outliers. There's the first resilience rule with outliers, and there's the second rule, resilience rule, excluding outliers. And then we'll reserve judgment on like which is better and what to do with them, but for now, at least we'll note them, right? Thanks for the likes. Okay, so here, 90 plus reviews. Is the first resilience rule. It's with outliers. The 4.8 rating is going to be it's going to exclude the outlier around 4.4. Okay. And so here is the 4.45 quality or rating. Okay. And then school age, we haven't really looked these up. They're just things that we are saying are interesting, and then we might want to look those up separately. By the way, these are not the only rules that you'll want to consider. So let's say non-measured, measured resilience qualities. Do let me know if you want to write a full academic paper, because we can go pick up these non-measured resilience qualities, and I believe we can publish an actual study once all this stuff has been included and sort of cleaned up and spelled correctly. Non-measured resilience qualities, I'll underline these and we will bracket these. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to call out is other things that you should be considering when you pick a boot camp. Okay, so we've talked about the job search guarantee. So this is for student advice. Other important considerations for students. And I didn't mean to keep underlining, so I'll turn off the underlining there. One is going to be price. 2 is duration. 3 is language of curriculum. Language and role. And I will say default to prefer full stack JS or TS. Okay. Price, duration, language, job guarantee. And then, yeah, you could look at the placement rate, but the job guarantee is going to be much more important than the placement rate. Placement rate. And then the other one is nonprofit, the nonprofit SIR analysis. Okay, this is the other thing that I wanted to mention. SIR bootcamp. Council on Integrity and Results Reporting. So if they tell you our placement rate is 99%, it doesn't matter much if that 99% was calculated in a suspicious manner. So SIR is really, really nice because they give you a Nietzschean confidence, so Nietzschean uncertainty. So they're going to help you address Nietzschean uncertainty in the statistics. That is, you gave me a statistic, but how much do I actually trust your model, like outside of your calculations? Well, they're going to give an audit and other incentives to make sure that that value is more trustworthy than someone else who gave a similar value but didn't undergo the audit. Phone's dying. Hey, thanks for being here. What's your percentage at? Thank you so much for sparing your last battery on me. Okay, so these are other things that you would consider, but historical advice, the main things you're going to want to look at are the prestige rule and the job guarantee. And honestly, like I know students love to talk about price, but take this seriously. How much more would you pay if they would guarantee you a job? Like seriously. I think if you're honest with yourself, 10, 20, 30, 40, I think you'd pay more than that. I think you'd pay 50, 60, even 100% more. So a $10,000 boot camp is really expensive. But if I'm paying $10,000, I would love to have a job guarantee. And in fact, would you rather pay 6, 7, 8,000 without a guarantee? Or might you even pay 11, 12,000 with a guarantee? I think the typical consumer is highly risk averse. And so you should take another look at the expensive option. Yes, 20, 30, these I think are outrageous, but I wouldn't squabble between 9 and 12, for example, and do check coupons or discounts or offers like this are quite common. Let's see. Not sure that I want to turn this into a Springboard ad, but I think I recently saw Springboard has like $1,000 off. So if $1,000 is a big deal to you, keep an open mind because there might just be a coupon for $1,000. Yeah, well, $1,500 off, right? So, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Supposed to graduate in February from Bloom Tech, but I got overwhelmed. It was defer. Okay. I mean, come over to the Latterly Discord and let's see if we can help you out. So one of the things about Latterly is it's self-paced. So if you're getting overwhelmed, one of the things you should be able to do is slow down, right? And this is, I don't know the details of Bloom Tech, but earlier in the stream, I mentioned that some hiring managers consider an excessively short curriculum to be a red flag. And this is one reason, is if you're rushing too much, you can only absorb so much. And so the typical student, if you're expediting your curriculum too much, the typical student may just not absorb enough. And so maybe they need to slow down. Now, I don't know that I would slow down all the way to the 4 or 5 years of the typical CS student. I still think that's inefficient. You can see Brian Kaplan's The Case Against Education, which does not say you should not go to college. That's not what the book says. It's just a controversial title. But what it does say is that much of the content of typical programs is extraneous. And so, yeah, 4 or 5 years I think is too much. And I think there's good data aligned with that here. But 3 or 4 months also feels too short. So I think we need to be reasonable and find, like, not only for the market, I do think there's some right amount for the market, and it feels like a year is reasonable, but also for you, personal factors, personalization is incredibly important. It was very, very big stuff too fast. Yeah. So Latterly is not a boot camp. It's a boot camp supplement and a boot camp alternative. And I see this kind of stuff all the time. This is like the origin story for Latterly is, if boot camps are overwhelming you, like, we can help you out. So you can book a session if you want, but also you can just come chat at the Discord, and there will be a lot of people, like hundreds of people that are familiar with this problem space. Okay. Here's another paper I wrote, New Digital Education. It's got a few citations on it. New Digital Education is the market solution to the student debt crisis. This is a slight tangent, but I think it's worth it. So when we have this survival of the fittest downturn in the economy, these robust institutions are going to survive because they are doing things differently. Somehow their business economics are more resilient. Their processes are different, and I can't tell you what they're doing differently, but they have different processes, from marketing to the pedagogy to the organization of the employees, headcount. What do they have those people tasked with? Could be any number of places where they're gaining efficiencies, and they will definitely be heterogeneous by company, so that different companies will be robust for different reasons. But as those companies survive, they will, over time, they will grow. Yes, I'm predicting these, like, if you're an investor, this is a nice investment class. I mean, this is not investment advice or whatever, but I think that we can make a theoretical argument for that. It's quite straightforward. And as they grow in the future, their processes will propagate across the market. So we're in a down cycle, but eventually the market will recover and indeed predictably inflate. All these things are subject to caveat, but based on the history of the behavior of the Federal Reserve, I think at some point it will hyperinflate. Maybe not hyperinflate, but it will go over the middle, right? So you have these cycles. But not right now, but later, as these survivors grow, their processes will spread to other companies at that time who are starting up, and they're reflecting on the market leaders in the future. Did that make sense? So later, right now the newcomers are getting killed. Like this one, we went through here and we said it's basically a newcomer because it has low review count, right? So you're too small, you can't stick with it. You don't have this sticky quality. Sometimes we talk about stickiness in economics. You're not robust, and so you get killed. That's due to the market condition. In a softer market, it might well have survived and even thrived. And so when the market recovers, there will be new startups at that time, and they will be reflecting on what the robust people who survived did. And they will try to mimic and adopt some of those practices. And that will kick off a third wave of digital education. So I wrote this paper, The New Digital Education, when coding boot camps were becoming kind of like popular the first time. So this was like the second wave of digital education, not the first. The first was like the MOOCs. And in this paper, I talk about like MOOCs are terrible, coding boot camps are better. And I say some other things. And so this is, yeah. Well, I say that this is a third age, don't I? Okay, so I guess there's one more age that I forgot about. Anyway, this is when this market recovers and they reflect on the like recession survivors, that's going to be a fourth wave. There's going to be a new wave and coding boot camps will behave structurally differently. So anyway, I think that's worth calling out, and that's why I have this paper up. Great, so we've got this rule we're building, 90 plus reviews, 4.45 rating or higher is with outliers. And if we exclude the outliers, the rating has to be 4.2 or higher. And the ratings so far, it has been 200 plus, as I recall. 200 plus reviews, as I recall. Let's keep going. We're almost through it. I think let's look at, I don't remember if we looked at Code Fellows or not. Let's look at this one. Yep, we're over 200, and this was the one generating the outlier 4.47. Okay, let's carry on. Actualize. 4.9. Oh, so this is actually a prestigious one. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least a third of the no problem at all are going to be prestigious. Now, I don't know if these are a random sample. Michael Novati, I don't know how he picked these. So I'm treating them as sort of like randomly sampled, but it may well be the case that he was specifically looking through well-known boot camps. I don't know. I don't know how he picked these, but it does seem that high prestige boot camps are overrepresented because a third of boot camps are not high prestige. So for them to be a third of the no harm done section, let's say, would be an overrepresentation. And then even here, 400 plus reviews. So this is another, 1, 2, 3, a full half of these undamaged, you might call them. And I'm sure that, if you ask the investors or the owners, like they would like there to be more profits. So I'm sure that undamaged is poorly put, but minimally damaged, you might say. Relatively less damaged, I think, is relatively less inhibited margin. Okay, there. I sharpened it up for you. Like less than 10%, I haven't run the numbers in a while, but less than 10% of boot camps are high prestige. So for them to be a full 50% of these relatively less margin inhibited companies, or whatever that thing I just came up with was, it's an overrepresentation, re-demonstrating the correlate, but also a full 50% of these are not high prestige. They're robust for some other interesting reason. There's a paper waiting to be written there. Again, message me if you want to co-write. So now we can fully define, so now we have these fully defined rules, don't we? And even among the high prestige ones which were harmed, they were harmed notably less, so that, yes, we had to deal with layoffs. I've been laid off myself, believe me. I'm not belittling layoffs. It stinks. But it's much better than shutting down abruptly or pausing indefinitely. Let's take a look at this Launch Academy. Launch Academy paused indefinitely. Is it high prestige? No, it's not, right? And it's good and we're noticing a pattern where it's the reviews seem to be the main driver, actually, which makes sense because if you think about the revenue, it might correlate more closely to revenue because it represents like the volume of students. So it might closely represent that. Another one of these that said pause indefinitely was Ada. Paused indefinitely. Lewagen is paused. It doesn't seem to be indefinitely, but it's interesting that Lewagen is so prestigious and yet paused. How about this paused indefinitely? Which kind of smells like a shutdown. I'm not sure it's the same. Yeah. And this fails on the quality and the review checks. Signed up. Great. Thanks for signing up. I don't see where to click free tier. You're automatically enrolled in the free tier on Latterly. If you sign up, you're just automatically enrolled into the free tier. You don't need to select it. You would only need to go submit a payment if you choose a non-free tier. Okay. Yeah. So now that we have these robustness rules, what might be the practical application? Well, the application is that if you look for prestige alone, two things are true. The first thing is that it greatly cuts down. So you're searching for a coding bootcamp. You browse all schools. There's way too many options, and so there's like 1,000 bootcamps that are on this site. There's actually more bootcamps that are not even on this site, but the prestige rule is going to help us narrow down so that we can make an informed decision. We're trying to prioritize and narrow down and select a school. Okay. And so the first rule that we already know about is, let's do the prestige rule. The green flag is that this already greatly cuts it down. As I scroll down here, so these are going to be 25 schools, I think. 1 to 25, okay? So less than 50. Well, much less. 1, 2, so 27. 27 out of 948. Okay, this is why I love the prestige rule. So less than 3% of coding bootcamps are high prestige, following my rule. And it's original with me, right? I did the research for this. So the good thing is we've solved 97% of the problem. We're searching in this haystack. I don't know, where should I go? Well, we just got rid of 97% of the problem. We only have to look at these top 3%. That's great. We've really simplified the problem. And yet we haven't fully solved it because I still have to pick out of these 27. And now that I've narrowed it down to 27, the answer is not obvious. And so typically what you need to do, I mean, my typical advice is you go for the job guarantee out of those 27, but you also need to do other things like make sure that they offer courses in your country. And so you really end up having to do a case-by-case check 27 times. And as time goes on, this number will increase, won't it? So for today, I think a brute force on 27 is workable, but if more incumbents come in, if that number says I have to brute force 100 or more, it gets really unworkable, doesn't it? And even if you brute force these 27, you'll have some findings and they may be ambiguous. It's like, okay, I brute force 27 and I found that 4 of them are not in my country. Well, now I still have to pick between 23. And it's true, only 5 of them have a job guarantee, but I really can't decide between these 5. So there's still some level of, what's that called? Indecidability or like uncertainty or like indecision, something like that. Phone is fading out. See you later. Thanks for being here. So one thing this robustness rule does is it helps us pick from the 27. Because it assures us, and I'm going to favor the excluding the outliers. Because why do I care about these at all? I want assurance that not only do I have name recognition today, but as time goes on, I will continue to benefit from that name recognition. This bootcamp will continue to be known and continue to grow in reputation. And I feel that excluding the outliers gives me much more confidence in that statement, particularly when I look at the values and I just say, oh, well, I can choose a 4.5 rating with the first rule, but who's going to continue to benefit my reputation more? Like 4.5 or 4.8, 4.9? Intuitively, it feels like a strictly better bar. Now, 200 reviews is less than the 400 reviews required by the prestige rule. So what I can do when I look here is I can basically sub-select on the overlap. And I could say, yes, 27 schools met the prestige rule, but now I'm particularly going to value this rating, which is a bar raiser on the prestige rule. So this part lowers the bar on the prestige rule. And this part, so it doesn't really help us solve the problem if our goal is to narrow down and pick a bootcamp, but this one does. This one does. And I think that's the practical application. As you brute force the 27, and in the future, maybe even before you brute force, if you want to narrow it down further, you filter on 4.8 plus instead of 4.25 plus, which is a I'll use the word, I'll give them some free advertising. I'll call this an ultra high quality boot camp. But I'm gonna let's see. maybe I'll give 2 tiers. Let's do an A tier and an S tier. So we have S tier is SIR verified or otherwise third party audited on placement claims. By a known and trusted third party. I have seen a couple boot camps that are like, we're third party audited, and the auditing firm is like, no one has ever heard of that auditing firm. So the key is not necessarily that it's SIR. I'm not like a diehard SIR person. There are those out there. I actually do worry about SIR controlling the bootcamp market too much. If we have like one true authority, I'm not interested in that. I just want a known and trusted third party. And I think SIR is a great one today, but there could be a future where that's not the case. And I actually don't care too much whether they're nonprofit or not. I think it's interesting. If I recall correctly, SIR is a nonprofit, but I do not follow the line of thought which says if the auditing firm is for profit, there's some inherent problem. I disagree. As long as you're like known and trusted, I actually don't care if you're a nonprofit or not. Okay, so S tier is going to be like third party verified. Let me just simplify this. Third party verified. Placement rates. Okay. High prestige. Rule satisfied. Job guarantee. I think that's S tier. What was I doing? And then the difference between S tier and like ultra high quality will be this 4.8 thing. So if you're S tier with the 4.8, like you're like S tier plus. I don't know what to tell you. You're just super awesome. S tier plus. I feel like S tier plus is a contradiction. You're not supposed to do that, right? So S tier. See, I don't want to call anything B tier because that sounds bad. Let's say SS tier. Better than S tier. I don't know what to tell you. Someone help me with English. 1, you're S tier. And 2, meet the second resilience rule for rating. So this is going to be like the major finding is this second resilience rule for rating is a real bar raiser on the quality. I wonder if there's any school like that. Lewagen meets it. Or well, do they have the job guarantee? And then are they in SIR? Are still going to be 2 questions. They don't have a job guarantee. So now you're still going to do this brute force, but I guess you have fewer bits. You have 4 bits that you're going to look for. Where's the catalog data? And so here I'm just going to look for my bootcamp name. So this will be Lewagen. And I don't see Lewagen here. Oh, Epicodus is one of the ones that shut down. Look at that. CodeUp is one of the ones that shut down. So SIR verification, I don't know how much SIR verification is going to cause you to survive, right? What a bummer. What a bummer. Tragedy. Hey, I became a full-time Swede thanks to your advice and resume review. What? Who are you? I don't recognize your TikTok handle. If you are open to doing like a positive review, send me a message, or like a testimonial, I guess it would be. If you're open to doing a testimonial, shoot me a message, please. I'm interested in gathering those over the next couple months. That's fantastic to hear. Congratulations. Super happy for you. Okay. So not Lewagon. Do we have any others? Let's look Springboard. Let's look at New Camp. You're a 4.74. So close, babe. 4.6, so close. 4.6, so close. She codes, but does she have a guarantee? She does not. But is she on SIR? She is not. And so you really got to get your priorities straight, right? If I tell you, I know a boot camp that's affordable, it has a job guarantee, the curriculum is really, really good, but they're not SIR verified. I'm going with the one that has the guarantee. It really becomes a red flag for me if the placement rate is outrageously high without a guarantee. So that guarantee is actually a really, really strong signal to me. If you have these high claims of performance without a guarantee, but you're verified, I'm going to absolutely prefer that to someone who has the high claims of performance, no guarantee, unverified. So it's like a third stage check for me. So the SIR auditing is important. I don't want to belittle it and say that it doesn't matter. It is important, but it's also a third stage check. So I am not starting here. Well, maybe you can start here just because it'd be faster to brute force 3. But I wouldn't start here for logical reasons. I would just maybe start here for practical reasons because brute forcing 3 is easy. Okay, so let's check these 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's some overlap, so we dedupe that, dedupe that, dedupe all of them. Okay, so you got to brute force 8 if you want to look in the 2021. Still, brute forcing 8 is easier than brute forcing 27, isn't it? But as these both scale, whatever. You can do it either way, I guess. You're getting to the same question. In my mental model of what matters, it's a third stage check. So she codes doesn't have a guarantee and is not SIR verified. So we're moving on. App Academy, you're not over 4. So it seems like no one is meeting this 4.8. Oh, correlation 1. No guarantee, but are you over here? Correlation. So you have this awesome claim, but can I trust you? I don't know. Also, notably, it's data science. It's data science. So this is where the curriculum matters. This could be an awesome choice for data science, but it's not going to help you for full stack web development, right? Great learning, and they're a 4.8. Okay. No job guarantee. Do I keep closing the SIR thing? Like, why am I making this hard on myself? Yeah, great learning is not here. And the truth is, I don't know if there's other trusted third-party auditors. SIR is the one that I know of. Maybe I should reach out and like ask correlation 1, hey, do you have an auditor? And then figure out if there's other trusted auditors, because it feels like this is just like too small of a list. And I think we're seeing that none of these pass the robustness rating bar. Actualize is looking really good, but they're not over here and they're not over there. They're not over anywhere. Codesmith. Oh, Codesmith, we found one. So Codesmith, and they don't have a job guarantee, but I'm happy to put them in this S tier category. So I guess we found one. Oh, no, they don't have the job guarantee. So the job guarantee feels harder. I guess this will be the A tier, is if you don't have the job guarantee. Darn. What I want to do is I want to say Codesmith, Career Foundry. Is it Code Foundry or Career Foundry? Career Foundry, and Springboard. Because these, I want to say that they're all awesome for different reasons. Career Foundry, Springboard. So this is like S tier, no guarantee. And this is like S tier with guarantee. I don't necessarily like this framing because it seems to say that Career Foundry and Springboard are like Pareto better. They're like equivalent with a guarantee, but the truth is they have a lower rating, right? They have a lower rating. So they're actually S tier for a different reason. But I want to say that all three of these are S tier, and I'm so glad we found one. So shout out to Codesmith. I think that's a really great positive note to end on. And there may be others, right? Like that's Career Foundry. I didn't go all the way through. Actualize Codesmith. So there could be others as we scroll down the list, like maybe course careers. I don't know. I'm not going to click into it, but I'm glad that we found one. But you can see how I applied this new rule to identify or to prioritize. Like within those 27 that meet the prestige rule, we were able to further grind it down with this or operation. Either you meet the resilience rule with SIR, or you have the job guarantee. I think that's well said. Resilience rule with third-party audit or job guarantee. And I think this is what I'm going to call like the S tier rule. And that really puts you head and shoulders above the other high, like even the typical high prestige, which is already the top 3% of boot camps. You're even better than the vast majority of them if you can meet this higher bar. Let's forget about S tier and we'll just call this ultra high quality. We'll call this ultra high, whatever. I'm going to call it S tier. Ultra high quality, I think that might bring to someone's mental model, they're like a 4.8 or a 4.9 literally on the rating, because that some people call about that to be quality. So I like this S tier term more precisely because it's a little more ambiguous. You could be S tier for various reasons, including you might be below 4.8, you might be down 4.6, 4.5, even 4.4, but you have a job guarantee. Although what I do notice about them, Career Foundry, Springboard, Codesmith, they're all over 4.6, aren't they? So there's 4.6. Yeah, they're all over 4.6. I'll say that's kind of coincidental. I'll say that's kind of coincidental, but notable. They all have a 4.6 plus rating, which is interesting for a couple reasons. First of all, it's notably higher than the 4.25, the current prestige rule requirement. And second, it's even higher than the first resilience rule with outliers. So this really does feel like a Pareto better choice. Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here. And that's my concluding advice. If you're looking for a coding bootcamp, look for one of these S tiers. Thanks for being here. Talk to you later.